When I moved in, my neighbor smiled and said, "This street belongs to us. We'll see if you last." The next week, my packages went missing. My car was scratched, and someone spread a rumor that I was bad news. Furious, I installed a security camera and caught her red-handed, taking my mail at 2 a.m. The next day, I forwarded the footage to the police. That evening, she knocked on my door, pale and trembling, whispering, "Let's not blow this out of proportion." I recently moved into a new neighborhood, excited to start fresh. The house was perfect, located on a quiet street lined with mature trees. As I was unloading boxes, I noticed a woman watching me from the adjacent yard. She appeared to be in her late 50s, with sharp features and an air of authority. Wanting to make a good impression, I approached her with a friendly smile. "Hi, I'm Alex, your new neighbor," I said, extending my hand. She looked at my hand, then back at me, ignoring the gesture. Her lips curled into a smirk as she said, "This street belongs to us. We'll see if you last." Taken aback, I tried to laugh it off. "Well, I hope we can be good neighbors," I replied, attempting to keep things cordial. She didn't respond, turning on her heel and walking back into her house. I stood there for a moment, puzzled by her hostility. Shaking it off, I continued with my move, hoping that things would settle down once I was fully settled in. The first few days in my new home were uneventful. I focused on unpacking and getting everything in order. However, by the end of the first week, strange things started happening. I had ordered several packages online, essentials for the house. The delivery notifications confirmed they had been delivered, but there was no sign of them. I initially thought there might be a mix-up with the delivery service. After contacting them, they assured me the packages were left at my front door. Puzzled and frustrated, I couldn't understand where they had gone. Then, one morning, I walked out to my car to find a long, deliberate scratch running along the driver's side door. It wasn't there the night before. The damage was too precise to be an accident. Anger bubbled up inside me as I realized someone had intentionally vandalized my vehicle. The final straw came when I overheard two neighbors talking as I was tending to my front yard. "Did you hear about the new guy, Alex?" one said. "Yeah," the other replied. "I heard he's bad news. Something about trouble with the law." My heart sank. I had no such history. Someone was spreading false rumors about me, tarnishing my reputation before I even had a chance to build one. Determined to get to the bottom of these incidents, I decided to install a security camera on my front porch. If someone was meddling with my property, I'd catch them in the act. A few nights later, at around 2 a.m., my camera alerted me to movement on my porch. I accessed the live feed and was shocked to see my neighbor, the same woman who had given me the chilly welcome, taking a package from my doorstep. I downloaded the footage and, the next morning, took it to the local police department. They reviewed the evidence and assured me they would handle the situation. That evening, as I was preparing dinner, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find my neighbor standing there, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Let's not blow this out of proportion," she whispered, avoiding eye contact. I took a deep breath, striving to remain calm. "You stole from me, vandalized my property, and spread lies. Why?" She sighed, tears welling in her eyes. "I've lived here for over 30 years. I've seen people come and go. I didn't want things to change." Her admission left me speechless. While I empathized with her fear of change, her actions were inexcusable. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at her. This woman, my neighbor Marge, had been the one causing all the problems, and now she was standing on my porch, shaking like a leaf, acting like we were about to settle a small argument over a fence line. "You didn't want things to change," I repeated slowly. "So your solution was to break the law? Lie? Steal from me?" She looked down at her shoes. "I made a mistake." "No, you made a choice," I said, my voice low. "And now you're caught." I shut the door in her face. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. I thought once the police got involved, things would quiet down. But I was wrong. 3 nights later, someone threw eggs at my house. Not just 1 or 2, dozens. Splatters on every window. My siding was covered. It stank. And they didn't just hit the front. Someone had walked around and hit the back too. That's when I knew it wasn't some kids messing around. It was personal. I checked the camera footage. The same woman. Marge? Wearing a hoodie, thinking she could cover her face, but the limp in her walk was unmistakable. She even used the same reusable grocery bag I'd seen her carry to her car 100 times. I gave the footage to the cops again. They said they'd issue a formal warning. But that didn't stop her. The next day, my trash cans disappeared. Just gone. I found them in the creek a few blocks down, upside down and crushed. A week later, someone dumped a bag of dog poop under my car door handle. Classy. And still, the neighbors avoided me. No one waved. No one spoke. I was the pariah, the bad news guy. Because of her. I started asking questions. Quietly. Casually. Turns out I wasn't her first target. Marge had a history. 2 years ago, another neighbor, young couple, moved in. Lasted 6 months. Rumors spread about them, too. One of them drank too much, someone said. Another time it was a single mom who was probably a prostitute. They lasted 3 months. Same pattern. Petty vandalism. Gossip. Isolation. And guess who always stepped in to keep things under control? Marge? It clicked. She was the self-appointed queen of the street. She didn't like change. She liked control. I realized the police weren't going to do much unless something serious happened. Warnings didn't stop her. So I decided to collect everything. I doubled the number of cameras. Put one in my backyard. One near the garage. One facing the side alley. All hidden. I didn't react anymore when things went wrong. When someone slashed one of my tires, I didn't even flinch. I walked to work the next day. Quietly, I gathered footage. 2 weeks later, she was back at it. This time, she tried to open my mailbox with a screwdriver. I had it on tape. Full face. Clear as day. She looked dead at the camera and didn't even know it was there. I made copies of everything. Videos. Photos. Time-stamped notes. I had a folder thicker than a phone book. But I didn't go to the cops again. Not yet. It wasn't a big fire, thank God. But it could have been. Someone lit a roll of newspaper and shoved it into my mailbox. It charred the inside, melted some of the paint off the box, and left a scorched mark on the front of my house. Luckily, I saw the smoke early that morning when I was leaving for work. That's when I snapped. I called the fire marshal, the police, and my insurance company. All of them took it seriously. Suddenly, things changed. This was no longer petty. This was dangerous. They started an official investigation. Then I found the Whisper Network, an older man 2 doors down. Name's Walt. Approached me one evening as I watered my front lawn. He had a quiet, tired look in his eyes. She's done it to all of us, he said. What? Marge? He nodded toward her house. She starts these crusades. Pick someone new every year or two. Usually someone younger. Outsiders. She spreads stories, gets in people's heads. Most folks just keep quiet. Why? Because we've all got skeletons, he said simply. And Marge? She knows how to find them. Turns out Marge used to be a city clerk. Retired now, but she still had friends. Access. Ways of digging things up. She'd threatened neighbors before. Not with violence, but with exposure. Affairs. DUIs. Financial messes. Secrets. She didn't just bully. She blackmailed. But I had something she hadn't dealt with before. Proof. And I wasn't scared of her. Not anymore. After Walt told me about Marge's past, I started looking into her more carefully. Nothing illegal jumped out right away, at least not in public records. But I did notice something weird. Marge didn't actually own her house. The property deed listed the owner as a trust, Greystone Family Holdings. I found the same trust name on 2 other houses on the same street. Both were rentals. I dug deeper and found out the trust was managed by her nephew, a real estate agent in Chicago. So not only was she terrorizing neighbors, but she also had control over multiple properties around me. That gave her a kind of unofficial power. She knew the renters were temporary. She probably liked it that way. Easy to scare off, easy to control the narrative. And suddenly, a lot made sense. She didn't just want peace and quiet. She wanted the entire street to run like her little fiefdom. I work in IT for a small logistics company in Springfield. Low drama. One morning, my boss pulled me aside. Hey Alex, weird question. Do you have any criminal charges we should know about? Like something not disclosed. I stared at him. No, of course not. He looked uncomfortable. Someone sent us an anonymous tip with a printed-out article about a guy with your name involved in wire fraud in Missouri. We checked. It's not even the same person. But just weird. I knew right away who it was. Marge. She had started going after my livelihood. She didn't just want me uncomfortable. She wanted me gone. Just after we had talked, Walt stopped coming outside. I hadn't seen him in over a week. Mail piling up. Trash bins not out. Porch light on during the day. I knocked, no answer. A few neighbors said he left to stay with family. Didn't sound right. So I waited until the next time I saw someone exit his house. It was Marge. With a key. She had let herself in. When I confronted her, she claimed Walt had given her the key years ago. He asked me to watch the place while he's away, but Walt told me he didn't even trust her. Something was off. A few nights later, around 3:15 a.m., I heard footsteps near my side door. Not the front, the side. That door didn't have a camera yet, but I had motion alerts. I grabbed my phone and turned on the porch lights remotely. Footsteps retreated. Fast. I ran outside and found fresh mud on the doormat. A faint footprint. And under a bush nearby, an empty bottle of lighter fluid. She wasn't done. She was escalating. Remember Marge's nephew? The guy who owned the houses? I contacted him, acting like a potential buyer interested in a quiet neighborhood with long-term residents. We chatted. I asked if he owned any properties in the area. He told me yes, 3 on my street. I asked if the tenants had good experiences. Then I asked if he knew his aunt had tried to set fire to one of those homes. Mine. Silence. I emailed him the camera footage, the fire damage, the police reports. The next day, I saw a car parked in front of Marge's house. A man got out, knocked hard on the door. They argued loud. Voices echoed down the street. 2 days later, a for sale sign went up on her house. She was being forced out. But that wasn't the end. The for sale sign stood in Marge's yard like a flag in surrender. But I didn't relax. Not yet. A week passed. Then 2. I hadn't seen Walt. Still no lights, no sounds, nothing. His car hadn't moved. No updates from police. I started fearing the worst. One morning, while I was watering my front lawn, the same detective from the mailbox fire came by. His face was serious. Mind if we talk? He asked. He told me Walt had been found alive but hospitalized, malnourished, confused. He had been locked inside his own home for over 9 days. Someone had disabled the inside lock on his back door and taken his cell phone. He was found after a wellness check from a friend who hadn't heard from him in weeks. They suspected someone had been drugging his food. All eyes were on Marge. Things reached a breaking point during a neighborhood association meeting. Marge showed up even though her house was now under contract. I was there. So were half a dozen neighbors, including 2 couples who had kept their heads down the whole time. The air was stiff with tension. One neighbor, Sam, stood up. We all know what she's done. To Alex. To Walt. And before that, you chased out the Garcias. You got Mrs. Fenner evicted. Every few months, it's someone new. Marge stood, straightening her cardigan, eyes darting around the room. I did what needed to be done. I kept the street decent. You abused people, Sam snapped. I protected this neighborhood, she said, voice rising. From people who don't fit. From troublemakers. From liars. You tried to kill me. I cut in, standing now too. I have you on camera with lighter fluid. You locked Walt in his house. And for what? Control? Fear? She lost it. Marge screamed something incoherent, lunged toward me, had to be held back. Spit flying, her face red with rage. You ruined everything, she yelled. You're the cancer. You. Someone called the police. She was escorted out, still screaming, still denying, still blaming. That night was quiet. Unnaturally quiet. I sat alone on my porch, listening to the crickets. Processing. The next morning, Walt's niece came by. She thanked me. Said they'd moved him to assisted living. He was safe. Recovering slowly. A few neighbors stopped avoiding me. One dropped off cookies. Another just said sorry, man, and walked away. That was enough. The day Marge's house officially closed, I watched from my porch as a moving truck loaded the last of her things. She didn't say goodbye. Just glared from the passenger seat of a beat-up Honda, pale and bitter. And then she was gone. I wish I could say I felt victorious. I didn't. I felt tired. The street got quieter, peaceful even. Kids started playing outside again. Neighbors waved more. But there was a lingering tension, like everyone was waiting to see if someone else would pick up where she left off. Walt never came back. His house went up for sale, too. Sometimes I catch myself staring at it, wondering what else Marge had done over the years that nobody talked about. I moved here thinking I'd just be starting over. Paint some walls, mow the grass, maybe grill on the weekends. Instead, I walked into a war zone wearing blinders. Marge wasn't just a bad neighbor. She was a tyrant, a manipulator. And for years, everyone let her do it. Out of fear, out of shame, out of habit. But fear only works if you let it. That's what I learned. You stand up, you expose the truth, even when it's messy and hard and people think you're overreacting. Because if you don't, people like her win. And people like Walt pay the price. Now I sit on my porch with a beer most evenings. The air feels lighter. Still, I don't trust easily anymore. But I'm not afraid.